A really key part of operations management is going to be about the elements of the operation system. Some of the textbooks might refer to this as the stages of the operation system, and even the exam question has used both of those terms. We're going to use the word elements, but just look out for the word stages as well. And what that means is an operation system to produce a product, whether it's a good or a service, has three elements. So the first one is the inputs. That's the resources used in the operation system to produce the final output. And whilst every product's different, there are going to be some commonalities between a lot of businesses, and that would be things like they need raw materials, component parts, utilities like gas, electricity, water, etc., and labor. So most businesses need those things to produce their product. Also, some inputs are going to be capital. When we say capital, we mean two things. Capital in business means money, the money needed to buy and have all these inputs. And secondly, also capital resources, plant, equipment, machinery, computers, robots. We're going to look at all of those things. Also, I guess you could include an input as an entrepreneurial resource. So great ideas. So say Facebook to begin with that's an entrepreneurial resource to think of that idea. Or even Tesla coming up with the mechanisms to not only design an electric car, but one that's kind of, basically like a computer on wheels. And also time is an input because every second you spend producing one product comes at the cost of doing something else and making another product. Secondly, a second step is all the inputs kind of go into a big bin. So they come in here on the left-hand side and they're going to get spat out at the end as a product, as an output. But in the second stage, we're going to call transformation, or you might say the word processes in some of your textbooks. It's the same thing. That is, the processes involved in converting the inputs into the final output. That will be different for every business, but basically we're going to use a lot of doing words here. So words like packing, checking, mixing, sorting, etc. That's all the things that are getting it done to turn all those inputs from over here, go into here, all these things happen, and then we spit out our third element, which is outputs. The transformed inputs, which is a final product, and that can be either a good or a service. So just with that output though, sometimes as a consumer, we don't actually see the output necessarily from a business because the output can be a product for the final end consumer. So for example, Coca-Cola, we are the final end consumer of that product. However, a lot of outputs are also then sold to another business and they use that as the output as a component in another product. So for example, things like your brakes in your car, that is not made by say Tesla or Ford, it's made by another company, sold to Ford, and then they turn it, that's an input for Ford, and then they turn it into the output of a car. Lastly, we just want to look at, well, what are some of the types of inputs? And we said they're all different, but we've got raw materials, the unprocessed resources from the natural environment, so taken from farms or mines, so we could have gold, sugar, coal, that sort of stuff. Component parts, processed materials usually bought from another business, to make our product. So to make an iPhone, we need computer chips, we need glass, we need the home button on the older phones. They're all component parts. We also need utilities, the basic services needed in the production process, gas, electricity, water, etc. Labor, that's the effort, skill, information, and knowledge of the humans used during production. We also need capital, the money. So we say the finance needed to buy all the other inputs. We need the capital resources, so it's the human-made productive assets. That's a very fancy definition, but basically that's all the machines, buildings, equipment, IT, robots, etc. We also need entrepreneurial resources, the skills needed by management to successfully start and manage the business, come up with the good ideas. And lastly, the time devoted to running the operation system. What else could the business be doing? Could we be making a different product or be in a different industry altogether?